Hello and welcome to the Everything Canada Soccer Canadian Power Rankings for Week 5. Now, we're just going to get straight into it. Go after number 1, which is just easily Montreal. Now, it's going to get a little boring. Montreal just keeps on winning and winning and winning. But there's really no Canadian team out there right now that are actually consistently performing the way Montreal have. The way that they've just been able to just keep on consistently putting in performances and winning, even though against Charlotte, it was pretty even in terms of shots and shots on target and possession and all that sorts of things. Even Charlotte even edging possession a little bit in passes, but they're able to find 2 goals through Dorde Mihalovic and Alistair Johnson, who I was so happy to see score. As soon as I turned it on the TV, because I was kind of like going back and forth with Vancouver Whitecaps and Montreal, that I turned it on. Alistair Johnson was scored, and he's one of my favorite players on the Canadian national team just because I just love the spirit and the energy and passion that he brings, and more than really anyone else on that team. I just feel like it feels like he just embodies the entire Canadian national team. So number 1, Club de Football Montreal. Number 2 is, as I check my board up there, Pacific FC. Now, it's been a little bit of a different week for the Pacific FC. They didn't have to play midweek in the Canadian Championship, but they did have to play, who was it? It was FC Edmonton. Now, that was an easy win for them, honestly. It was a bit of a kind of like just a formality. Them show up, put in a performance, go home. They took the lead through Alejandro Diaz, sorry, my bad, and in the 10th minute. And then Josh Hurd made it 2. Not too long, Wesley Timoteo made it 1, made it a little bit closer near the end in the 73rd minute. Now, in terms of shots, close to even, although Pacific FC's were a lot more on target than Edmonton. Edmonton basically just had a hopeful shot sort of thing. It was an entertaining game in terms of the attacking talent, and that's why I talked about on the 3 things that we learned about that Pacific FC are just going to be so hard to stop just because of their attacking talent, and that's just another way for them to show it. And action. So number 2 on our power rankings goes to York United, who in the midweek in the Canadian Championship beat Atletico Ottawa on penalties 7-6, 1-1 in regular time, and were able to win through 7 spot kicks. Oh my gosh. What an entertaining game that must have been to go to. Even though it was Atletico Ottawa, York still managed to find them out and to be able to win that game. After that, they moved on and played Valor, which they lost due to an absolutely beautiful goal from Rea. Like, we're going to be talking about this goal for so long. He talked about it. There's a quote that he just made about him just kind of like saying, like, the ball was at my feet. There was like 5 players around me. I just said I didn't know what to do, and his body just kind of took over. It was just an instinctual thing that he did in order to actually just like get out of that and fire it on net. So York United, a little bit tough. They do move down. I'm not going to be too harsh on them because they did win in midweek on penalties, but they are your number 3. Sorry, my bad. I messed that up before. Number 4 goes to Cavalry. Now, you're thinking, how do they jump ahead of Halifax when they tied on the weekend? Well, here's how it works. So, midweek, we go back to our Canadian Championship in the preliminary round. Halifax Wanderers only won 2-0 over Guelph United. Now, yeah, it's a win, but it's against a semi-pro team. And the gap from MLS to CPL, it's relatively close, sometimes closer than others. But the gap from CPL to the semi-pro level, the champions, can vary much so. We've seen it in a couple years before. Forge or whoever played them, if my memory serves them correctly, would smash those teams like 5-0. It's very big. We haven't seen the MLS smash teams in the CPL quite yet, so there's still a little bit there. So it doesn't count for as much, whereas Cavalry beat FC Edmonton 2-1 in an El Clasico. I will always give the advantage to a win in a rivalry over a win in a lower division. So there's that. And then the tie on the weekend, all the goals came from set pieces. No one had the edge in terms of any chances or anything like that. Just a crap day that was just filled with that. So that's my reason for having Cavs finish in 4th and then HFX finishing in 5th. Now, Valor goes up to 6th from 7th due to a tight win over York United. Now, They needed a fantastic goal in order to win, and they were this close from going down before then. But Jonathan Sirois, who is going to be our player of the week, is the sole reason that York United don't come home with all 3 points. Because I think if York United I think if York United actually go and score that penalty, if De Rosario puts it in the net, it was a crap penalty. But if they put it in the net, then I think it's a completely different game. But Jonathan Sirois has now saved majority. I think he's only allowed one penalty in the CPL, if my memory serves me correctly. Someone comment if that's not the case, but honestly, Sirois at the moment the best goalie in the CPL, and so that's why Valor moves up. Not too much because it was a close game, but just they do move up. Now, next is Whitecaps going from 9th to 7th, which is because it's a tie in the MLS, which means that it's a tougher league against San Jose. San Jose is better than any other CPL club. That's just a fact. If they came to this league, they would win. Now, the fact that they just kept going, they kept plugging away, they kept going behind, and Lucas Cavallini, who was I talked about yesterday, yesterday I talked about him just carrying this Vancouver Whitecaps team through the mud and all the way. Just kept tying. They just never decided to give up. 6 goals in total in the second half of that game. So hopefully you didn't watch the first half. Hopefully you're like me, got lucky and watched it in the second half, and were able to watch that just incredible game. They actually almost won at the death. So I'll give them moving up 9th to 7th, and you'll see why they moved from 9th to 7th in a second here. So we go next is Atletico. Now, the reason for this is they did have a close loss against York United, but on the weekend, they were able to put in a great performance. They were able to put in a great performance against Forge and tie them 1-1. Tying Forge is a fantastic result. I don't care who you are, if you're Cavalry, if you're the reigning champions Pacific, or just any one of the other teams, that is a massive achievement that you can, go home with and be like, you know what? We tied the 2-time champions of the CPL. Like, we can be proud of ourselves. So Atletico do move down, but that's only because the Whitecaps and Valor won. Whitecaps and Valor did it much better in their games. So don't be too harsh. Don't be too harsh to Atletico fans. You did play well, but at the same time, it's just not enough as other teams were. In 9th, we have Forge, for obvious reasons. Again, they beat a team in the Quebec Pro Amateur League, so you're not really going to get too many brownie points there, and you tie it against Atletico, who you really should be beating. You really need to start putting some form together. I mean, Atletico, they're nothing special this season so far. We haven't seen them really come out of their shell yet. So Forge needs to be able to beat teams like that in order to move up the rankings. This is the lowest that they've been. I do still think that they're going to eventually, once they get some fit players back, they didn't play with a center back. They haven't been playing with their full team. But once they do get them back, my goodness, watch out, because they're actually going to go on a tear. Like, I honestly think they could finish 2nd or 3rd this season still. And it's because it's so early on in the season. We've only played 5, 6, 7 games, depending on who you are. So plenty of time for Forge to make it back. But now we go to my least favorite section, and that's the section reserved for Toronto and Edmonton so far. Second week in a row where they are now bottom of the power rankings list. Now, Toronto, you better hope Lorenzo Insigne comes with some firepower, because you guys are screwed this season. Honestly, I don't know where you guys are going to go. I'm not going to go too hard on Toronto because it feels like I'm talking about Toronto so much. But yeah, you're 10th for a reason. Same with you, Edmonton. Figure it out. You guys got to get a win. You're the only team in the CPL. I believe you're the only team in North American football that don't have a win yet. I'm going to double check with myself to make sure that there was no one in the MLS that have no wins. Yep, only team in Canada and US that do not have a win yet. So, in a professional league, obviously. I don't know about the pro amateur leagues or anything else, but that's why they're 11th, because, well, do I really need to give you a reason as to why? So that's this week's Canadian Power Rankings. Let me know what you guys think. Please start fights in the comments. I know these rankings are going to upset some of you. Took me a little bit to actually decide where teams go, but I did my best. I explained as to why. But yeah, if you have a different opinion than me, let me know in the comments down below. I'd really love to hear what you guys have to say. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.